All right. Can everybody hear me properly? So, welcome to Words About Words. Right away, I'm going to say that I'm definitely not going to try to give an all-inclusive view on the topic that I'm talking about. I am an entertainer. So, don't take me too seriously, because I'm going to say some pretty outlandish stuff. So, to just get an introduction to the topic, we have the idiom, "The pen is mightier than the sword." And this comes from 1839. And the quote it's from a poem. It goes like this. "True this, beneath the rule of men entirely great, the pen is mightier than the sword. Behold, the arch enchanter's wand," and pay attention to that. The arch enchanter's wand, itself a nothing, but taking sorcery from the master hand to paralyze the Caesars and to strike the loud earth breathless. Take away the sword, and the states can be saved without it. Sounds like pretty heady stuff. The important part there is the mention of a wand, and this will become relevant later. So, what is a word? The funny thing is when you look up the definition of a word, they give you a lot of words. And just to give you a little taste of what they say, it's something like the unit of language containing one or more morphemes, yada, 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 yada. Now, by seeing all of these different definitions of a word, I thought I could come up with my own. Get ready. This. A more encapsulating definition than you could ever give. Now, what are the effects of our words? Can words kill a man? There's a little story here. Maybe somebody has heard of it. It's Giordano Bruno. And back in 1584, Giordano Bruno was a priest. And he was quoted by saying, "There are countless suns and countless earths, all rotating around suns in exactly the same way as the 7 planets of our solar system." These are the words that had Giordano Bruno burned at the stake. Now, this did come right after Copernicus was publishing this work. But nobody had created the Copernican revolution yet. Copernicus said something, he was crazy. Everybody else still believed in the heliocentric model. Giordano Bruno had a spiritual experience by himself and was the only person to come to this conclusion purely by his own thoughts. And the church responds in 1600. "We hereby, in these documents, pronounce, sentence, and declare the aforesaid Brother Giordano Bruno to be impotent in pronunciation." And, okay, I'm not even going to go through all this because it's pages and pages and pages of them saying, well, since we have to bear the holy canon, and since we have to bear the self-righteousness of our Lord, we bring Giordano Bruno to the stake today and burn him for God's sake. And this is because he simply said that we rotate around the earth. These words killed Giordano. All right. And in response to all these words that he said, all these words that the Christian leaders at the time had to declare him to death, he only said, "Perchance you who pronounce my sentence are in greater fear than I who receive it." And those are his apparent last words before they burned him. Something I want to say right now that I'm also going to bring up later. The wise people have less to say, and what they say is more powerful. Those who are trying to trick you have much more to say and have many more buzzwords. So it's about being able to discern who is the arch enchanter here. So, how do these same words shape our society? Need I mention somebody like Marx? Need I mention people like the Founding Fathers? The ultimate example of how you shape a society is by Scripture. So let me quote something. Corinthians 14:34 through 35 from the New International Version of the Bible. Women should remain silent in churches. They are not allowed to speak, but must be submissive, as the law says. If they want to inquire about something, they should ask their own husbands at home, for it is disgraceful for a woman to speak in church. And I've used this quote before, only to establish the idea that these sorts of words help to create the sexism that we just think is normal, that we grew up with, that's always been around. These are the sorts of words that form that mainstream in our head. So, when you see a poster during the Cold War and it has a question that says, Soviet cities on the moon? It might have an effect on you. It might be trying to get something across to you. It might be trying to make you a little fearful. And then during the Vietnam era, you see quotes that say, don't lead with your chin. Enemy propaganda is designed to confuse you and mess up the war effort. Think American. Now, it is now clear to us, since we were able to dig up some old documents, that the Gulf of Tonkin, which incited the Vietnam War, was actually a false flag operation. And there were no warships shooting on Americans on that day. But we used that as an excuse to get in there because we had other interests. Now, who is using the words? Now, who is the propaganda spewer, really? Who should we be weary of? And what can we say about what's being said in the modern day? I'm not going to get there right now. So, where did the words begin? When did we start speaking? When did we go from chimp to saying words like eloquent? Why did we ever find it necessary to start speaking? Aren't animals satisfied enough by communicating with their bodies? Why did we go down this road? I'm not going to answer any of this. I'm just an entertainer. Now, there is something that I encourage you guys to look into in your own time. There's a guy named LeCant, L-A-C-A-N-T, and he talked about something called the mirror effect. And it's this idea that when we are kids, as soon as we recognized that that person in the mirror was ourselves, we established the idea of being in the abstract world. We didn't live in a way that everything is the same as me. Because when you're a baby, the bird chirping isn't the bird chirping. It is you. It is your phenomenon. And so as soon as you say, that thing in the mirror is me, is when you can start to speak words. And when a tree starts to be only a tree, and not something of its own self, some holistic phenomena that is wonderful and amazing, but instead it's just a tree. And this is where I'm this is the real ball dropper here, okay? Words are magic, and we are magicians. Why do you think they call it spelling? Why is the world so similar to the word, so similar to the work, and so similar to the worship? It all has to do with this word. This word. because what we worship is with our words. And what we work on starts by saying, hey, we should do this. And we get this word grammar from the same root as we get the word glamour. Enchantments, things that cast you in a trance. They come from Scottish, grammare. And it was the same thing. To them, the word was the glamour. The grammar is the glamour. Consider enchantment and an incantation. It comes from the chanting. When you make an incantation, it's not some magical thing. You speak. That's it. There's the magic. This comes from Latin, cantare, which is simply to speak, to capture. And then you have to fascinate. And to fascinate comes from faskein, it's Greek. And faskein is to say, to charm, to bewitch. These many words that we're using have this root of understanding it's magical. And when you walked into this building or any other building, sometimes you see the word entrance. Well, it's trance. You're moving into a trance. You can only feel a certain way by entering a particular place. It's the entrance. You become entranced. Now, this is the part where I'm going to need you guys to do a little spelling in your head. So consider words like light, right, and fight. There's a GH that we write every single time in the middle of those words. And it's not to troll you. Words are time capsules. So when we used to say the word light, we would do this guttural thing. Like the Germans, because that's what we're coming from. We're coming from Germanic. So we would say lacht. We would say racht. And eventually, we were just like, stop that. But we never changed it. We spend all this time in our life spending that extra GH, the extra GH, and think about how much time we're wasting. Are we wasting it though? Because this is a time capsule. Then we can know how we used to say it. It's written right there. But we only think of it as something that's trolling us, as something that makes English hard to learn. So consider also ni and no and knife. They all start with the K. Kani, knife, kano. That's it. And we did the same thing. Screw that k noise. I know. I don't know, I know. And it's a time capsule, okay? There's reasons for it. It's not just random, okay? Consider also why the word chef starts with CH. Is it trolling us? Actually, when you see CH say the sh sound, it's a French word. So the word is telling you, this is where I'm from. And when you see a CH say a K noise, like in the word stomach, that means it's Greek. It comes from the Greek. So these things that we think are just random have history. These words are history. Now, this is also where I'm going to go pretty far out there. Because if words are history, then we're speaking a lot of pagan stuff. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. All worship the pagan gods. You have Sunday. You have how we used to say the Sunandag, the day of the sun, the day we worship the sun. You have Monday, how we used to say Moonensdag, which is the Luna day, the day we worship the moon. I can go through all of these and pronounce Old English terribly. The point is that Tuesday is the Nordic god's equivalent to Mars's day. So every day we say Tuesday, we're paying homage to the god of war. And every day when we say Wednesday, we're talking about Woden's Day. We're talking about Mercury, the god of communication. And every time we say Thursday, we're gonna say Jupiter's Day, because we might as well. Because we're paying homage to Jupiter, whether it's just a planet or a celestial entity, or whether we believe in astrology or whatever. Friday is Venus's day, and what a great day for Venus it is, the day that we all let loose and we love one another, finally. And last but not least, of course, is Saturn's Day. And that's the most clear of them all, is Saturn's Day. And that is also associated with Kronos. And if you remember, Kronos is the titan of time. Now, consider also this word horizon. The horizon. And actually, it's Horus. Horus Eisen, the old god of the sun in Egypt. And he was much more than that. So when we say, look at that horizon, those Egyptians are real happy and those mummies are not turning in their grave. When we say an hour, why is there an H in the front? We're just saying hour. We're not saying ha-hour. And the reason the H is there is because of Horus. And when we say origin, and if you know Spanish, you know they say hora for time, or the Greek hora for time, then you know that the hora comes from Horus, the origin. Now, how far do we take this pagan stuff? Considering zodiacal ages, way back in this day when they were slaughtering rams and whatnot, they were actually paying homage to an age that they were in. We are in the zodiacal age of the bull. And so we will kill the bull in order to appease the age. They're not just killing the bull because they feel like it. There was a reason why they're killing that bull in particular. Now, I don't know if this is too far, but hear me out. We say terrible. We say horrible. We say impenetrable, incredible, and is this unreasonable to say that we're mentioning a bull? What about the monitor? You know, like Taurus, like the bull? What about the conspirator or the creator? Is this Taurus? Is this all bull worship? And are we all saying these words without knowing that we love bulls? Now, that could be too far. I don't know. I'm just trying to ask some questions. When we also consider that our words are coming from places, we have to consider any big word that we use of sophistication. So a word like philosophy comes from the Greek philos, Sophia, and the philos is the love of a friend. And in the Greek, they had multiple forms of love. And we're very primal in this sense. Nope, it's just love. This was brotherly love, okay? And it was only for a man to give, philos. And Sophia is wisdom, and the philosopher is the lover of wisdom. But in their sense, it's only the man. Only the man can love the Sophia. And Sophia, being wisdom, is a woman's name. It is feminine. Wisdom is feminine. But only a man can know that. Only man can know that. So, when we say, I'm a philosopher, what are we really saying? Whatever happened to the poetess instead of just the poet? And whatever happened to the priestess instead of just calling her reverend? We don't have the words to pay homage to women, and that's why we don't pay homage to women. We need to make the words do that, and nobody's making the words do it. Consider also when we want to call a woman promiscuous is a nice way of putting it. We might say that she's a nympho or a nymphomaniac. And a nymph in the original setting was a semi-divine being. There were women who were semi-divine. And we took this word that meant a lot and we made it into a nympho. No, you nympho. So let's take this word of significance that held women in high esteem at some point and let's turn it into something that demonizes them. And last but not least, why do we say that we understand? Does that mean that I stand under your belief? I understand? Or really, if I truly know something, shouldn't I overstand it? Can't I see over the situation? Why do I have to understand? Maybe that helps to perpetuate the idea that I'm down here, that I don't have power. Okay, so it wouldn't be complete unless I did some quotes about words. So here's one. Words, of course, are the most powerful drug used by mankind. This is Rudyard Kipling that said that. And if they are drugs, then let's test it out. If I use any swear word right now, any swear word at all, the room would immediately, oh God, did he just say that? Aren't there kids around? I've casted a spell across all of this, and it's affected all of your mental well-being. It's a drug. It creates your reality just like a drug would mess with your reality, or however you want to think about that. Here's another quote. Words are pale shadows of forgotten names. As names have power, words have power. Words can light fires in the minds of men, and words can bring tears in the hardest of hearts. No matter how big of a tough guy you are, if you say the right things, he'll turn into a frivolous, like just a bawling little baby. Because you can use the words and they're more powerful than the sword in that way. That came from Patrick Rothfuss in the name of the book, The Name of the Wind. And here's the one that you guys will know. This is Carl Sagan. You know, the Bill Nye of yesterday, the Bob Ross of science. This is a big quote, so bear with me. What an astonishing thing a book is. It's a flat object made from a tree with flexible parts on which are imprinted lots of little funny dark squiggles. But one glance at it and you're inside the mind of another person, maybe somebody dead from thousands of years ago. Across the millennia, an author is speaking clearly and silently inside your head, directly to you. Writing is perhaps the greatest of human inventions, binding together people who never knew each other, citizens of distant epochs. Books break the shackles of time. A book is proof that humans are capable of working magic. Carl Sagan wasn't just into science. So, now to get a little bit more personal, what I do for a living is I teach people to read and write, adults that never learned to read and write. So the relevant part of this is that we have this huge thing in this country that none of us talk about, and that's illiteracy, and people that can't read. And since our education system doesn't fit everybody's mold, you can just push them through. You can say they had a GED, but they'll never learn to read, and they feel alienated, okay? So let me give you a little taste of this. 60% of the people in the prison system can't read above a third grade level. 70% of people in the prison system can't read above a fourth grade level. Now imagine that you're growing up, and maybe one of you are out here. Imagine that you're growing up and everybody's understanding something and moving along and you're having trouble and nobody's going to take the time to work with you. And you start to feel alienated, and then they all move on, and I can't make money in a world that demands that I'm literate because I'm not. So what can I do? I need to commit crime to even make a living because there's nothing for me. And then we just throw them in jail, okay? Now, that alone could be an hour-long conversation. That's most of my presentations is on that topic. But the thing that never gets talked about, there's a lot of people who talk about illiteracy out there, but the thing that nobody will ever talk about is alliteracy, and that's the willingness to not read. I'm not interested in reading. I'd rather watch TV. I'd rather, do something else with my time. It's not about not being able to at that point, it's that you won't. And that has an effect. That has a real effect on us. We're not educating ourselves. And that affects everything. Everything. Maybe I'll spend some time talking about that a little later. So, we're in an age that loves to decide what you can and can't say. For instance, when I brought up swear words earlier, I would be a bad person if I said the wrong things. I'm not free to say whatever I want to say. I need to obey the conventions. I also need to use words that everybody understands. And when it comes to writing, I need to spell right. So, this rise of censorship, what do we make of this? This rise that kids can't hear bad words, kids can't see anybody naked. And what's so wrong with us being naked? Aren't we all the same? Why do I have to wear clothes right now? Why would that be weird if I was really just me up here? Is there something I need to be ashamed of? Is there something that you need to be ashamed of? Are we not all the same? The rise of censorship would have us believe that we need to keep ourselves real tight. And we can't say the wrong things. We can't say the wrong things. You can't talk bad about the guy in power. You can't talk bad about whatever terrible things they're doing. You can't speak your opinion about some atrocity that's going on in the modern day without somebody wanting to hurt you physically. Why can't I say anything? Why? And also, this is connected with these laws of espionage. Because if you speak the truth, you're a criminal. You can't say those words. You can't say the truth. That affects our warfare. Or that affects our security. The security of what? Tax revenue? It also is to say, philosophically, that you ought not know things. You ought not know that. Move along. They want you just smart enough to operate the equipment, but just dumb enough not to question it. And also this aspect of political correctness. I say that's bullshit. Isn't that horrible? Again, I can't have rough opinions because that might affect somebody's wallet or their power, and God help them if they need to create something new, This political correctness is censorship. I should be able to say whatever I want to say. I should be me. Why can't I be me? Why can't I? Why do I have to fit myself in a little box that is properly prepared and properly marginalized, compartmentalized, so that you can be happy with me? What's that about? Why can't our kids see somebody naked? Why can't they know that Santa Claus isn't real? Why can't they know that? Why can't we tell them that this world is rough? This world is tough. This is the way it's going to be, young chap, You're going to have to wake up to this one day, but me putting you in a fantasy world for long enough can make sure that you remain properly traumatized when that time comes. Because I know how bitter I was. And I'm not even going to talk about where Santa Claus comes from. So, in response to all this as well, we have this big victim culture. We have to be victims. The system is doing this to me. I have to take that job I don't give a damn about just to get by. because of the system, right? I'm a victim, okay? Don't blame me. I'm just the guy, right? Or when you go up to the federal office, you're like, hey, I need help with this. Oh, go talk to them, right? And then you go talk to them. Oh, go talk to him again. The back, forth, back, forth, back, forth. Oh, it's not me. I'm not the one deciding that you can't get your help today. It's not me. I'm just a victim, right? This is everywhere. And we're all victims. We're all victims. And so who has the power then? The only psychopath that says that he's, a big enough narcissist. I've got the power. Everybody listen to me. Meanwhile, anybody who has any sense is going to say, oh, no, it's just the system. It's just the system. I don't have any power. And then those guys run wild. They run wild with it. And how many hollow words we really speak. How are you doing today? Oh, I'm doing good. Really, that's a huge question. How am I doing? I don't know. My physiology is chiming correctly. That's how. Or, maybe I feel like everything's crap. I'm going to say that it's good. Why do we have to say these hollow words? It's useless. It's useless. Just to get somebody to leave me alone. And also I'll just tell them to leave me alone. And also this whole thing, when I'm talking about political correctness, when I'm talking about victim culture, when I'm talking about hollow words, you have the buzzwords that divide every one of us. You have race, you have ethnicity, you have age, you have gender. Take your line, okay? Take your line. Whereas really, reality is all over. It's an open field. But they're going to carve walls so that you have to go down one of these alleys. I'm a man and I'm 23 years old. Let me label myself for you so that you can put me in the right place. Okay? That's something I really want to spend a little bit of time on. It's infinite potentiality. What we say is infinite potentiality. It doesn't have to be any which way. The system even doesn't have to be any which way. We think that it needs to be a certain way purely because we've been brought up in it. And you go over to another country and you see they're running things a very different way. And it's functioning. How? If it must be this way. And it doesn't. That's the point of it. And really what I'm trying to get across here is that we're the magicians. We're the empowerment. We have to empower ourselves. And nobody's going to do that for you. Nobody's going to educate you for you. You have to hear. You have to listen. And you have to know what my words are saying. When I say something like, it's just the way it is, that disarms everything. It disarms everything. Now we can do nothing, and we're victims. It's just the way it is. It's business. Oh, they're just greedy, Well, let's not do anything about it. Let's just talk about it and sip our coffees, So in the age of information, we're drowning in information. Because information is just what's in formation. You need to know what's coming up. The info. Give me the info. I need to know. Oh, who's getting married? What do they look like? Right? Yada, yada, yada. But we're starving for wisdom. There's no wisdom. It's all yammer. Blah, 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 blah. And again, information is long form. Wisdom is captured in very few words. And that's not to say that wise men don't say a lot, but they pack everything in them. And those who have ears to hear should hear, okay? Somebody could tell you all the truths of the universe, and if you're not going to listen, if you're not open to it, doesn't matter. You won't hear a damn thing. It's over your head. Because those who have ears should hear. I can only give so much to somebody who can hear me. But if somebody's not willing to hear me, then I'm yelling at the walls. And The other saying is that don't throw pearls at swine, lest they trample all over them like mud. Because if you intend to give something to somebody who's not willing to receive it, they will treat it just like anything else. And you can work your whole life, and you finally found the answer, man. I found the meaning of life. Let me go out and tell people. Nobody's going to hear you. You're going to be that weird dude on the hill. Or that weird girl. Hey, sorry. This is just the language. Don't blame me. I'm a victim, all right? So, whatever happened to holistic understanding, That tree isn't just a tree. It's got so much more to it. There's so much about it. And I can't ever give enough words that would capture truly what it is. Truly. Because when I say a word like a tree, a certain one might come up in your mind. But there's way more than one. And there's different kinds. And don't forget about the roots, and don't forget about the chemical communications that they do with one another. Don't forget about how they're communicating and how they're in symbiosis with the earth, or how they're the lungs of our great planet and we're tearing it all down. There's no holistic understanding. It's just this, okay? It's just a tree, okay? So people want categories. And people want riches. But what they need is fulfillment. And we're not teaching our kids that. We're not talking about this enough. We're not cultivating ourselves. If only I had the right boyfriend, then everything would be okay. If only I got that job, then everything would be okay. When really, it doesn't depend on anybody else. It doesn't depend on if somebody hires you. It doesn't depend on that boy, that girl, whoever. It's about you. It's about what you bring. And nobody does that for you. If you want to be a crap person and sit on your, sit around your whole life and just let everything happen to you, there is nothing wrong with that. The world is absurd. It's great. But if you want to complain, then know that every time you speak those words, it will create the reality that's so bad. Every time I say that things are bad, then the world will appear that way. Because I make the world with the word. So, the modern day, and any other day, I don't just want to make it seem like it's just like we're sliding down the hill, just now. The modern day is one of divisions. Again, gender, race, age, nationality. I can't call anybody from an enemy nation a human. How preposterous. Here's my little rant on that too. Human. Human. You go across the world and you see that each beach has different colored sand. And you say, the black sand is superior to the white sand on that other beach. Because it's a different hue. And we are the humans. We take on different hues. But let's use that as a way to divide us, right? Make sure we cut ourselves up. Need I say, divide and conquer? The real, I know I've said this a few times, but if you're going to hear me out on anything, we've forgotten how magical the world really is. And I'm only using magical because it's a convenient term. We've forgotten the wonderment of all this. You can't go outside and find a single animal that isn't named. You can't go out and find anything that isn't named. And tell me why there are 7 seas. Or 7 oceans. There's 1 ocean. Why do we cut it into pieces? Why do we feel the need? We can use it that way if we understand what it's really doing. I'm not trying to say let's get rid of everything. I'm just saying we need the understanding of what we're doing. every time we speak a division. So we need to remember how magical, really, and wonderful the world is. Because everything's trying to tell you that it's crap. Everything's trying to tell you that it's so bad. And that's why it is because everybody says so. And we make it true. And we allow that space in our head. And that's what makes the world. So just wonder every once in a while, even if it's so bad, just laugh at it. Because it's absurd. It's why it is the way that it is beyond comprehension. And we don't need to define it. We don't need to define it. That's why it's great. And that's what the world is without definition. Okay? So, how do we counteract? How do we counteract this? What am I trying to get across? We need to dissolve these barriers. We need to stop thinking that I'm me and you're you. We're just the same thing acting different ways. You act the way you do because you've experienced the world in a different partial way. And I act the way that I do because I experience the world in a different partial way. But we're the same thing. If I had been where you are, I would be you. And if you had been where I am, you would be me. And there is no division. Unless I just want to say that you're bad. Then it's great because that's you, not me. And when do we ever just sit back and think, this is no different than me? And when somebody does something idiotic, then I can just be angry and I can yell at them, as if it's going to do anything. When really, I've done all sorts of stupid stuff, and I don't know why. But I can yell at that idiot because it's not me today. You see how hypocritical it is? So we need to dissolve this. We need to dissolve all these boundaries. We don't need to be a certain way. We need to actively empower ourselves. We need to stop being victims. We need to do something. We don't need to talk about it anymore. Because it's not just the word. We gotta do. And the world is full of characters. It's the care actors. And we're all actors. And to act in Latin is to do. And what we do is to act. And the words we say make the actor. Today I want to act like I'm a dog. I just got to woof for a while. And then I become a dog. It's that simple. So what I say makes me. And you. And the world. So be mindful also of what words you take in. What do you believe? Is it of your own mind? Or did somebody put that in there for you? For some reason? And what words do you give? Do we know what we're saying? Do we know what we're trying to get across? Why don't we pay a little bit more attention? Why don't we think, if I should say something, shouldn't it be genuine? You know? Am I just going to say this to try to appease somebody that I really don't care about? And this is all a tease around, okay? This is all a tease around. All right, I'm using so many words today, yet claiming if I was wise that I would say very few. Because it's all about the unspeakable. And that is a word. But it's hinting at something. It's hinting at the infinite potentiality. Because there is everything that's unspeakable. Not one thing is actually speakable. Because it's reductionist. Everything is wonderful. And we can't capture it with these weird noises that I'm spitting out of my face. I can't capture it. They're just spells, okay? It's not the thing. They're just spells. They're just words. So, bearing all of that in mind, I came up here as a poet, yet somehow turned into some sort of professor. So I'm going to read some poetry, all right? And I want you to be mindful that I am crafting. And also, that I don't choose these words like a philosopher. They come to me. I don't lord over them at all. It's not my creation at all. Something else gave this to me, and it just went through my head, okay? So when you call me the poet, I don't think of it that way. I'm just a filter, man. I'm just a monitor. So I'm going to stay relevant to this word topic for a little bit. And then I'm going to share something different because I don't want to just purely focus on the words for too long. All right. Actually, give me a second. This is called the knower's medium. No matter what knowledge it is, its content is shapeless. Any power that is given to it depends on how it's put, how it's shaped, how it's brought about, and for what purpose it's formed. Like the spaces between us and the shadows behind us, what can be known is always presently present, presently present, presently present, presently present. Pages among pages, novels upon novels, volumes and volumes, light years and eons across. It's known simply by the act of choosing to know it and rationalizing it for yourself. Whether for destiny, whether for values, whether for just the game, it is just because it is, or not. Let it be said, let it be given hand that nothing is found without drive. The whispers of your mind, what ails you in the nights, and what has you rise in the mornings, is this very same shapelessness that we form life out of. The very same nothing that we have made everything. Call me a poet, that sounds too heady for me. One more one about words. I think I shared this last time I talked on this stage. It's called contingent linguistics. I speak of the word that is word. How absurd it is to say what it is to say. For the word is a word, a sound of a sound, something that we believe to be profound. But if I don't play by the rules we used to say, then the claim isn't readily under display. What meaning is there to speak about that is itself? All description rendered bleak, a solid structure of language. Oh, look there, a leak. It boils down to an utterance, a vibration of sorts, a message in the air that your mind contorts. That which is behind the eye ascribes the meaning to be. The one person I will never see, the absurd word forwarder, the knower that is me. All right, shaking it off. Enough about words. Now just try to hear me out as somebody who's crafting, okay? What am I making? This is called carvings of the whole. Light and water carving through darkness. Pray for the road of least resistance, yet take paths in distinct directions. Have them things, have them no things. They have problems. Give them ambition, give them futility. They give yearnings. Fire and waves carving through matter. Pray for a hasty destruction of your enemies, yet retain personal structure. Have them hopes, have them tragedy. They have aimlessness. Give them beliefs, give them deceit. They give corruptions. Eternity and all carving through nothing. Heavy stuff. Now, a lot of this is negative. I do have positive stuff, but it just goes with the theme, so forgive me. I'm actually a nice guy. I can talk nicely, okay? I'm not just some pessimist up here, right? So, I got one more, and this is all reflecting everything that I said, okay? So it's called the wordscape. A thing that I know is that I'm a thing to say that I know. Skin flaps, the unseen air, a floundering tongue, and a mind to beckon, called to command by lost souls. This is a thing that I know that I know. Vastly immoral predispositions masked with the nearest thing to a genuine human display. All of this contorted through the bot tones of a face on the many electric monitors. This a thing that I know that I know that I know. These coercive manifesting tones, these properly unenlightened flickers, forged landscapes of terror sewn together with the dry veins of innocent people. This aptly falsified, compartmentalized, and propagandized by minds of the farthest thing a human can be from a human. This a thing that I know that I know that I know that I know. To be brought up in lies, to be guided by non-beings, to be imprisoned by writings scribbled by he who refers to himself as the lawman, and he who refers to the individuals as a flock, as the public, as something to fool. Dead dreams becoming all the more putrid. This a thing that I know that I know that I know that I know. But hey, you need that dollar, right? Best go become another oiled cog in a lost man's mechanism. Flap your jowls about how nothing can be done. Only if we say so.